Hey, what's up, guys? This is Benji Bruce here with SpeakingLifestyle.com, and I want to talk about something interesting today. And I've always kind of wondered what's the difference between the speakers who succeed in this business and basically the speakers who don't. Now, some speakers they just seem to like get it, and others they just have a hard time just getting on stages no matter what. So I took a good look at the speakers who really build a speaking business, and I realized that they have these three traits that make them just a little bit different than most speakers. So first trait, they're willing to do whatever it takes. If you're willing to do whatever it takes, then you're basically guaranteed to grow your speaking business. I mean, let's say that you don't have enough money to, let's say, hire a web designer to build out your website, and you don't know anything about web design. So if you're serious, though, if you're the type of person who's going to do whatever it takes, then you'll figure out how to design websites yourself, and you'll make a good one for your speaking business because you're in the do whatever it takes mentality. So this do whatever it takes mentality, it's important because there are tons of things that you don't know right now. And there are things that you don't know, especially when you're starting out. And there are tons of things that you have to do, and it's going to suck. I mean, on top of that, you're going to have to do it nonstop. You're going to have to make a ton of calls and do all this email marketing, internet marketing stuff, and day in and day out, stuff that you have no idea what to do. I mean, it's kind of like the fitness industry, or it's like fitness in general. The people who lose weight or people who become bodybuilders, they're the ones who push through the pain rather than give into it. They do whatever it takes. So yes, you want that ice cream and you want that pizza, but because you're dead serious about fitness, you eat salad instead, or maybe egg whites if you're a bodybuilder. And it might suck that you have to do cardio for 45 minutes and all this other stuff and the way you change how you eat, but you do it anyways because you're serious. And the same goes for your speaking business. The speakers who do whatever it takes, they always go further and they build a bigger speaking business because they're not afraid to learn new skills. They're not afraid of the work because they know that it's going to suck, but they do it anyways. They know it's going to be hard. They know that they're going to feel uncomfortable, but they still just do it anyways. The next trait that I noticed in a lot of the top speakers is they have something different about them that they emphasize in their marketing. So they figured out that there's like this little niche that they have in them, and they kind of blow it up just out of proportion. And I don't really want to say that this is a USP. It's just that they realize that there is something a little different that they can actually do, which other speakers either don't do or they just can't do. One of the things that I do is I actually do mind reading shows, and I incorporate that into my speaking. So just doing that alone actually allowed me to charge more, get more gigs, and build a better speaking business. Not too many speakers can actually read minds from the stage, so it's very different. There's another speaker who calls himself the world's worst motivational speaker, and he's more of like a comedian, but he found that the thing that makes him different, he found that thing and he emphasized it. And once again, I don't really mean a USP. I mean, look at someone like Les Brown. Les Brown is obviously a very successful speaker, but what makes him stand out? I mean, he doesn't do mind reading. He's not a comedian. He can't juggle. What's the thing that makes him one of the top speakers? Well, Les Brown is actually a great storyteller. He took that skill and he got so good at it that he obviously made a name for himself. And there are tons of speakers who tell stories, but they're not nearly as good as Les Brown. So whenever I talk with speakers and they want business advice or presentation advice, I always look at something different that they can do. I mean, can they sing? Can they juggle? What do they do that very few people can do? And when that's combined with speaking, it makes them build a bigger business. Then the last trait that I want to talk about, the last successful trait when it comes to building a speaking business, it's probably the most important one, and it's actually your ability to have an insane amount of focus. Your focus literally creates the reality around you. It literally takes what's in your head and produces it in the reality around you. I mean, think about something that you worked on that you finished. Maybe you worked on a book for a year or two and you wrote the book and you're done with it, or even just like a blog post, whatever it is. Think about some project that you actually finished. Now think about what would have happened if you didn't focus, if you didn't actually focus to finish that product or the project. I mean, let's say you wrote a book and it took you a year. I mean, think about the amount of focus that you had each time you sat down to write that book. I mean, you might have written for like an hour or 2 hours every single day or on and off, and then you went about your day and you did other things. Now, think about how much faster you could have written that book if that's the only thing you did all day, every day. I mean, you literally woke up, ate some food, and you just started writing nonstop all day until you went to sleep. Then you did the same thing the next day and the next day and the next day. Not only would you have gotten the book done faster, but it would have been 100 times better because when you're seriously focused, you kind of get in the zone. I mean, you've seen athletes who are like in the zone. They're just insanely focused and everything just seems to go right. I mean, you might have been in that zone yourself with a few things, but think about what would happen if you lived your life like that. If you lived your life in the zone. For most people, getting in the zone is actually something very rare. But what if you actually lived your life to a point where getting out of the zone is actually very rare? And I'm not talking about just feeling good throughout the day. Not like you just say, "Oh, I feel good today. I'm in the zone." I'm not talking about that stuff. When you're in the zone, you're not thinking about that. You're definitely not saying, "Oh, I'm in the zone." You're not thinking about any of that stuff. You're just focused because you kind of have this tunnel vision. Speakers who are in the zone with this insane focus, they're going to work on their business all day. I mean, they don't mess around. It even gets to a point where people around them, they start to say things like, "Oh, you should be taking breaks. You're working too hard," things like that. And the second you hear people say that, that's an indicator that you're actually getting in your zone. Eventually, people are just going to stop saying it because they'll realize that's just who you are. And when you're out of the zone, that's when people are going to start saying, they're going to say, "Wow, I'm surprised you're not working." So those are the three successful traits of speakers who really, really grow their speaking business. And they do whatever it takes, no matter how hard it is. They're willing to learn new things, no matter how hard it is, because they have that do whatever it takes mentality. They have something that's a little bit different about them. And then they have this insane focus that literally just creates their reality.